Hi, in today's episode, I spoke with the very cool and very kind skateboarder and entrepreneur, Tony Hawk. You probably know him as the most famous skateboarder in the world. And to be honest, I was kind of nervous to talk to him because I'm not very skateboard literate, and I'm a big scaredy cat when it comes to anything physically dangerous. Although I did bungee jump once. Story for another time. But because I've been so impressed with his vulnerability and how much attention he's given to changing the narrative around men's feelings, I really wanted to talk to him for the show. And if you don't already adore Tony Hawk, know that he arrived at our interview with a signed skateboard deck for me, and my brother is very jealous, so double win. Anyway, I hope you find something in our chat to connect to, and thanks for joining us on Reclaiming. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Audible. Explore over 1 million audiobooks, podcasts, and exclusive Audible originals that'll inspire and motivate you. Visit audible.com/reclaiming to find your next listen. Thank you to our exclusive fashion partner, Reformation. I honestly can't tell you how many of their pieces have become my go-to favorites. Their sweaters have this incredible way of being both polished and comfortable. And in fact, when we recorded my own reclaiming story for the podcast, I was wearing the same Reformation sweater as the producer interviewing me, but thankfully we had the Clara on in different colors. Their clothes work for all moments in my life, whether it's a casual day out or a more formal occasion. I always find myself reaching for my Reformation pieces. Visit Reformation.com to see why they're one of my favorite brands for stylish and sustainable fashion. Tony Hawk, welcome to Reclaiming.
Thank you.
I am so excited to talk to you today, even though I couldn't ride a skateboard to save my life.
It's not required.
Okay, good.
To talk to me,
okay,
by the way.
All right. But I was thinking about how we met originally.
Yep.
I was someone's plus one to a party you had in 99.
Our mutual friend was Tom Green.
Yeah.
And Tom told me that you were at an event, and I was like, oh, I'd love to meet her. And then I can't remember how it all transpired, but we did meet at that point, but very briefly. And then you came to, I think it was actually one of our video game release parties.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. And then the second time I think was sort of a slightly fuzzy. I may have blocked it out on purpose, which was, were we on Jimmy Kimmel together? And then
That's very
Marilyn
possible.
Manson
Wow.
played and was like sort of rude.
I feel like
Luke Perry might have been there.
That's an amalgamation of the early 2000s. So
yeah,
yes.
Totally. Right. It sounds good.
Sure. Yeah. And Motley Crue was probably there,
Right,
and Everclear
100%.
played, and like all those shows and stuff. I mean, it sounds a little gratuitous, but I was doing a lot of those shows too. So
Yeah. And then I felt like, in a way, we sort of re-met as adults. That's how it felt to me at the Qualtrics conference in Utah. And you were very kind in mentioning my anti-bullying work to me, which made me feel really good. And then I roped you into being in our PSA campaign that year, which was around just trying to help young people take the sting out of name calling. So, which was very generous.
And
of you.
Honestly, I had the same kind of journey, not as you, but as the kids, in terms of, not being made fun of, being picked on. Like in our day, it was you get picked on a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you come to realize that later, like, oh no, I was bullied as a kid.
Yeah.
I was bullied as a kid. I was small because I skated. Skating was like the furthest thing from cool. And I feel like as we both kind of made it through that fire, you and I really identified with each other in that, oh yeah, we got to the other side of it.
Yeah.
And we can speak from experience.
Right. Exactly. And especially, I think that's what all of those campaigns we were doing, but that one in particular, because it was all people like yourself who are well known to young people, older people, talking about the names they were bullied with when they were younger. And so showing people, I think, that idea of, oh my gosh, like Tony Hawk was called skinny piece of crap when he was a kid.
True.
But I feel like It's so interesting because you're known for being the most famous skateboarder in the world. You've created, I think it's hundreds of tricks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird in the skate world because you can combine an existing trick with another one, and voila, you have a new trick. So they're not all like the baseline are not all mine.
Yeah.
But I was able to develop them. Yeah.
Right. I was really drilling myself earlier because I was like, I call them routines sometimes when I was looking at them, and I like, no, they're tricks. This is not gymnastics.
You can say that
it's
though.
Not
like,
a routine.
If you're linking tricks together, especially with what I do, because I skate half pipes.
Okay.
So I do.
And a half pipe is
a half. Well, a half pipe is literally okay. Here's a little history lesson of skateboarding.
Okay.
They used to skate these full pipes, like actual giant sewage pipes out in the desert. That was a way to skate and kind of mimic riding waves, because like one part of it looked like a wave face, right? And then someone got the idea of, what if we cut one of these in half, build it out of wood, and that'll be a half pipe, right?
Okay.
That's where the term comes from.
Oh, cool.
And then at some point we realized, hey, if we put flat in between the walls, we have time to kind of organize and set up for that wall. So what I skate is half pipes or vert ramps, and so the actual top of it is vertical 90 degrees.
Yeah, I mean, you do crazy shit, like pirouetting in the air. and then somehow landing on these ramps.
I'm just going to go with your terminology from now on.
Pirouetting
and routines.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Like, I talked to a girl who's not very athletic and doesn't
cool.
do...
Whenever I have likened skateboarding to anything, especially from the outside's perspective, I try to say it, it's like gymnastics. It's like, it's a bunch of really technical tricks and routines, and it's a lot of the nuance you're not going to get. But it's very difficult. Yeah. And it takes a lot of practice.
Yeah. One of the things I was really curious about was around trust and how you trust your body. Like, because you do all those things and you're doing it all in the fucking air, and then you land on the ramp with the pipe, the half pipe, now that I know what it's called, not the ramp.
Vert ramp. It's a vert ramp. It's either one.
Okay, vert ramp.
You're right in line.
I'm going to be so cool by the end of this chat. Yeah. And so you started skating at 9 and you're doing these things. How did you learn to just trust your body in a sense?
I think that I was naively confident in the early days of my skating.
Okay.
Where I just projected myself being able to do these things I saw in the magazines and whatever else, and thought I was capable of them. But at some point got hurt along the way and realized that it's not as easy as I think it is. Maybe my skill level is not there yet. Maybe my body type is not of someone that could do these things, but I didn't care about getting hurt. Now, it's not to say I wanted to get hurt. I didn't have a death wish or anything. I just didn't mind it.
Okay.
Right. So injuries were just kind of roadblocks that I had to get through. It wasn't some sign from like, oh, this is the end. I got to quit doing this because I was like, no, I am going to get better, and I'm going to learn from my mistakes, and I'm going to keep trying this stuff and keep trying at a higher level. I think it wasn't until I got into my teens and I finally got really confident with my skating that I trusted my body and that I could visualize new moves and go forth and make them.
Oh, how interesting. Yeah.
Because at that point I realized I know what I'm capable of. I know what I'll push. I'll know how far I'll push something. And this thing, it's totally possible. And I feel like I might be the only one with the skill set to go do it.
Wow.
Or of the interest that wanted, because there were some tricks that I learned, especially in the early days. People just thought, they literally said, like, you're a circus freak. It's like you're twirling a baton. Like, who cares? This is dumb.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm not very athletic. I'm a total pussy when it comes to anything dangerous, like physically dangerous. And I feel very disconnected to my body in some ways. And basically, I think there's just that sense I'm in awe of somebody who can just look fear in the face.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is. It's not that I'm fearless.
Okay.
Because fear definitely keeps me in check and has definitely helped me to navigate situations where I probably saved me from doing something that I really shouldn't have been doing. But when I look at something we call an NBD, a never been done.
Okay.
Right? That if I approach it, I know I have all the pieces to this puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
I've done this trick, I've done this body motion, I've done this board manipulation in some other form, but all it takes is doing it in this direction. But I already have spun this direction. You know what I mean? It's kind of like I've done every piece of it in some other form, so I just have to put them all together.
Okay.
To fix that puzzle. So then it's like now all there is to commit to it.
Okay.
And because I have all that in my mind that I've done this, I've gotten every piece of it. Just make it. That's the moment of truth. Mm-hmm. And that's the commitment that it takes to do what we do. For the most part, it's gone well, but sometimes it doesn't. Because like, especially with some of the higher impact tricks,
yeah,
if it doesn't go well, it's a disaster.
Okay, what's your worst disaster?
Take a pick. Honestly, 3 years ago, almost to the day, I broke my femur.
Ooh. That's supposed to be really painful, right? For recovery?
It was. It was really painful. Yes. There was a moment where I was sliding across the bottom of my own ramp, and I knew my leg was disconnected from my body. You know what I mean? I could just tell that I have no control over this limb.
Wow.
And I look back and it's dangling way behind me.
Holy fuck. Oh my God.
And instinctually, I mean, you do a lot of weird things in trauma, obviously, but instinctually I grabbed it and I put it back in place.
Wow.
Oh
my God.
I didn't think I was fixing it. I just wanted it to look relatively normal. Right? Yeah, that was hard.
I think I'm so terrified of something like that happening to me. I'm so terrified of that physical pain.
I guess that's the thing is the pain sucks. But from my perspective, and I've actually talked to people about this recently, actually one of my kids, where you get an injury that is significant. It's not, oh, this is going to hurt. It's, damn it, I'm going to be out for X amount of time. Uh-huh. Or I'm going to have to work extra hard to get back to the level I was at. Uh-huh. And I was in complete denial when I broke my leg, where I was like, give me 6 weeks.
Okay.
That truly was my attitude.
And how long did it take?
Oh, it took, well, I tried to get back within that limited time frame, and I ended up moving the bone out of place. Because I was putting so much pressure on it, trying to skate like an idiot. Yeah.
No, but
it was, and to be honest, it gave me a better sense of my mortality and my place in life. Because before that, I was Peter Pan. Like I was still doing tricks that I had learned in my 20s. Stuff that people do at X Games, and I saw no end in sight, and I wasn't really accepting my limitations. I'm not the whole everything happens for a reason. It was just more like, oh, that taught me the best lesson of my adult life. Which is, you're old. Like, don't take this for granted. Don't risk everything for what? Another McTwist? Mm-hmm. Like, it's not worth it. Uh-huh. So I have like this baseline of skating now that I truly enjoy, and I almost appreciate it more than I ever have.
Was that hard for you to accept that?
Yeah.
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 I mean,
it's still hard. Like I can't, I can barely do tuck knee grabs anymore. People skaters out there will understand what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But because of this injury, and tuck knee was one of my signature moves. Yeah. That's super hard to swallow. But if it means I still get to skate, I accept it.
And psychologically, what do you feel when you're sort of saying, okay, I had to accept that I'm old? What does that mean for you?
I think it's more embracing maturity to me now. Mm-hmm. Before it was like, no, I still got this. Mm-hmm. Like I'm gonna fight through it, and I was like through my second recovery, still trying to kind of fight through it to get to that same level. And at some point, it was like, this isn't worth all the effort, and what am I really doing it for? And, I I have a loving family. I have a grandchild on the way. Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, you are the coolest grandpa.
oh, well,
right?
thank you.
So your son, Riley, right?
Yeah.
Is married to Frances Bean
Frances
Cobain.
Bean, yeah.
Right. And they have a kid.
That is my only grandchild, yes.
Are you enjoying it?
Oh my God, it's the best.
I think I read somewhere that you had bought Kurt Cobain's skateboard. Is that accurate?
I bought a skateboard that he painted
Okay.
for a friend in high school.
Okay.
Who they were really good friends. And I've gotten to know his friend, Cameron, pretty well since then. I used to have a bit of an addiction of buying movie props.
Oh, okay.
There's certain movies I just love. And I was like,
like?
it'd be really cool to, I like The Big Lebowski.
Okay. Do you have stuff from those movies?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a plaque that is on the actual Big Lebowski's wall,
Wow.
like a plaque of recognition. I have the sign for Big Tuna, Texas from Wild at Heart. There's some deep cuts, but at some point I had to stop.
Yeah. I have a crystal addiction, so
Okay.
I totally understand.
Okay, at some point it was like, this is just the endless vortex, right? And
I think because you're a little older than me, but we're both Gen X, right?
yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, we grew up kind of watching movies.
For sure.
Highlight of the week was going to the video, like for us, it was Videotech here.
Yeah, you had to get there early because all the good stuff was gone. And
Yep.
I mean, that was like going to a nightclub.
Yeah, it was. It was
going to Blockbuster.
It was. My brother somehow hid from my parents that we rented E.T. and he kept hiding it, and so we had it for 13 weeks. It was
late fees.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
But to go back to how I got the skateboard is I finally have limited my searches to skateboards.
Okay.
Used in movies. So I'm no longer a movie prop addict. I'm a skateboard movie prop addict. So I have the skateboard from Hook.
Okay.
I have a hoverboard from Back to the Future.
Oh, wow.
Well, please, you have to get that, right? Yeah. And then the skateboard came up that was in a music auction, and it was painted by Kurt Cobain for his friend, I learned later, paid him $10 and a bag of weed to paint an Iron Maiden logo on the board. And Cameron was skating on it, and one of the trucks broke, and he never got it fixed.
Okay.
And that's how it remained. Like that's how it survived.
Wow.
Because it never got ridden again. And he literally had it in his room, and his wife used it as a bra holder. So I saw it, and I was like, that's amazing. And I did verify it with Frances, which is weird that I have that loophole connection.
So you bought it. Did you get it before she was in your family?
I showed it to her, and she's like, yeah, that sounds legit.
Yeah.
She was excited, and she said we should recreate that board and sell it for charity for suicide awareness or suicide prevention.
What a great idea.
That was really cool.
Have you guys done that yet?
We did that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we made a very limited number. The proceeds went to suicide prevention and also to the Skatepark Project, which is my charity for public skate parks. It was cool. She's very private, and for her to do something like that was on a much more public scale, I was honored that she trusted me enough to do that.
Yeah, that's really meaningful. I mean, especially, I think it's interesting. I don't know about the other generations, but I feel like for Gen Xers, the day Kurt Cobain died was like you remember where you were.
Oh yeah,
in one of those. Yeah, I was in line to go watch. My friend's husband was working on the Bill Maher show. So,
I was at an ice rink in Santa Rosa.
My gosh,
warming up for they had covered the ice rink and they were doing a big rollerblade show, and I was the special guest skateboarder in the rollerblade show, and we were rehearsing. I mean, I remember exactly where I was in the arena, skating across the floor.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, because in those days you don't have access to information in the same way that we do today.
Yeah. Somehow we thought MTV News was like, was like the AP.
Oh my God. I think we could totally revive and give MTV a lot of credit now, like give them a whole new life.
Yeah.
Right? The AP for old Gen Xers.
I know we need Kurt Loder giving us a lowdown.
Yeah, it's so interesting. But with all of that, though, I mean, we sort of kind of became mega well-known, mega famous in the late 90s. You were famous before, but then you stepped into, right, when you did the 900. Did I say it right?
Yes.
You completed it, and therefore also introduced that trick now, right? This is so embarrassing. I'm so uncool.
You're right, but there was a kind of a perfect storm in '99 in that we had been working on a video game for about almost 2 years up to that point, and it was about to release that fall, and then that happened at X Games, which was unplanned, something that I've been trying to do for like 10 years, and finally figured it out in that moment in front of all those people and cameras, and I think that boosted my awareness, obviously skateboarding's awareness, and then to have the video game sort of get the 1-2 punch in terms of that getting released not long after that suddenly thrust skateboarding and my name into a totally different stratosphere.
Do you remember how you felt in that moment when you landed it?
I was just relieved.
Relieved. Okay,
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Because I had been trying that trick off and on for over 10 years.
Wow.
And gotten really hurt a few times when I would commit to it. I mean, that's the kind of trick that like you can spin it all you want, but once you commit to it, you're probably going to take some slams. And when I finally did commit to it the first time, I broke my rib.
Okay.
And there were no cameras around. There was no ESPN didn't care about skateboarding. I had to go pick up my son Riley from preschool.
Right.
with a broken rib, like I'm having a hard time breathing.
Okay.
It was like that. That was the state of things,
Yeah.
That was 1995, and I had learned 720s, which is the spin before 900. I learned that on a ramp with 3 people watching in Sweden in 1985. I'm just trying to give it context. Like,
yeah.
In these years, it didn't matter.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then suddenly we get to X Games, and it's starting to be really popular among youth. Our sports are starting to get a lot more attention. And the fact that I did it there, I was still shocked that anyone even cared. It was more because it was just a personal mission for me. And so when I finally did it, it wasn't like, yes, I get all this glory and there's going to be newspaper articles. It was more like, oh, I can finally get off that trick. Like I'm finally done with it. That's the only feeling I had.
That's so interesting to me. I've been thinking about it a lot because we sort of officially launched the show. There was so much preparation and I was so anxious. And basically this feeling of, okay, I didn't fall on my face and fail. And instead of being able to feel happy, I just felt relief and gratitude. But to me, I mean, I think some of that comes from trauma that's what my therapist says, that it takes a long time of things being different.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, in that moment, I didn't think I had created some revolutionary moment or that it was even going to resonate beyond our little crew of half-pipe skaters. You know what I mean? That was it. Like it was such a small collective of people that were even interested in that, in what we did,
right?
Or the nuances of spinning, but they just loved the way it was kind of the way it was all falling into place, and that my competitors and my peers were getting behind me to do this trick that had never been done. Yeah, it ended up being this big deal. I mean, after that, like I was getting recognized everywhere. People were stopping me at airports, like, dude, 900, and I was like, what is going on here? But I think to your point, later on, I understood what that all meant.
Yeah. I just, I don't know if this will sound weird or not, but I so admire you. I so admire your dedication to sort of taking something on and to keep at something for 10 years that's physically harming you. It's really impressive to me. I don't know that my ego would let me do that.
Yeah, well, I from this side, it feels just more like there's a stubbornness. You know what I mean? Like I just wouldn't let it go.
Yeah. Were you always stubborn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
me
sure.
too. Yeah.
And determined. You know, my mom, I think my mom said it best when she's like, he's very determined. When her friends are like, he's a nightmare.
Why? What would you do?
I was just always, I was very energetic. And when I was a kid, my parents were much older when I was born. So it was like I grew up with grandparents.
Okay.
And all my siblings had already moved out of the house by the time I was going to school. So I was just really determined to get my way or get to do the things I wanted to do. And just harassing my parents for rides to the skate park or the arcade or to Wendy's, whatever, you know what I mean?
Oh no, my parents teased me that I think one of my first complete sentences was my hands on my hips saying, "You are not the boss of me."
Yeah.
You know? And then when I was in my teens, I was such a nightmare. I mean, like, obviously we all know I was a nightmare in my 20s too, but I was a nightmare in my teens. I told my mom, I said, okay, well, here's how this is going to go. So I can either tell you where I'm going and you can't stop me, or I'll lie to you, you know? And she was just not I know, she was just not one of those. She's so sweet. She was just not one of those moms. She was not strong enough for me in that way. So I totally get that. What was it like for you having parents who were older? Did it register for you at all, or?
Not really. They were active until they're older aged. So, you know, my mom would go body surfing with me when I was like 10.
Okay.
And so by then she's 53.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I never really.
So you're basically saying I could still be body surfing.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
But my dad was pretty out of shape, and he had already had 2 heart attacks by the time I was born. He wasn't concerned about what he ate or what he put in his body. And so I think that also gave me incentive to try to be healthier when I got older.
Did you have any thoughts as to why he did that, or?
Oh, no, he said it. He said it very much, because a few times where I would try to complain, we didn't have a very, it wasn't a very emotional connection. And there wasn't a lot of deep discussions in my home. So when we would even approach the subject of him trying to eat healthier, he would be like, I'd rather die younger eating happy. I'd rather be eating the stuff if it kills me younger than eat stuff I hate and live longer. There wasn't much arguing with that.
Yeah. Interesting. So it was not a very emotional environment growing up.
No.
Yeah.
No, and my mom and dad's relationship had gone pretty cold by the time I was born. They were children of the Depression, and I was definitely not planned. You know, their relationship had already chilled by the time I came around. But I didn't have another example to go by. So for me, it was like, well, they're just roommates.
Okay.
And they're just functional parents. Like,
they
did provide for me, and they did get me the places that I wanted to go for the most part. But they both worked, and I was a latchkey kid, and, you know, come home, make myself snacks, watch cartoons, go do whatever out in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Until I found skating.
Do you feel like the kind that there's this connection at all of having been in a home where there's, you know, not necessarily a lot of talk about emotions, and what I imagine having to shut down emotions like fear when you're skating, or, you know, a sadness. I mean, not just in skating, but I think especially for young men, if you got hurt, did you feel like you could cry?
Yeah, my mom was pretty nurturing.
Okay.
So that was helpful. You know, my dad, I think if one thing I learned from my dad was resilience, because I would see him, he did a lot of woodwork and stuff, and he'd
mine too.
Come in and his hands were just bloody, and it was like anyone else that I knew, that was straight to the hospital. And he's just like, you know, go and fix it up himself. And so I kind of learned to be self-sufficient in that way and not overreact to injuries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I did go through a string of injuries when I first started skating that ended up, I mean, I got a concussion early on, broke my front teeth. I basically dislocated my shoulder, and at some point they took me to the hospital, and the doctor pulled us away from them into a separate room to ask me if anything was going on at home.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't even know what that meant.
Right.
I didn't
Oh my
understand
gosh.
what
So
he was
they
getting
thought
at.
they thought
I
that
was
this
getting abused.
abused.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
But also that also speaks to the fact that my parents let me keep doing it.
Right.
You know, they weren't negligent, but it definitely was the 70s, and they'd already raised 3 kids.
Yeah.
And it was like, just let him go.
It was the 70s.
You know?
Like, that's all you have to say.
You get a concussion, it's like, oh, you rang your bell.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
You know, no one's worried about
No.
the long-term effects of that.
But it's funny. I'm just listening to you talking about these injuries. I'm like, I need Xanax. But so it's really interesting to me because I feel like I learn from all these conversations that I'm having with people of there's something for me to explore personally around why does it make me so anxious to think about sort of physical pain that way?
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking about there's this great quote that you said, I learned I didn't want fame. It's the worst drug. I didn't like myself and I started to spiral.
I had a taste of fame in my late teens, kind of early 20s, in the 80s when skating was a fad. That's pretty much how I could sum it up. Like it was Back to the Future, and suddenly there was an interest in skating. There were skate parks opening. I was on the Bones Brigade, which was considered the elite team.
Oh yeah.
And you know, we're on tour all the time, and we're in our late teens, and girls suddenly are giving you attention, and you know, all that was very intoxicating. But it all fell off very quickly. And I found myself age 24 with a child on the way, 2 mortgages, my income just taking a nosedive every month because it was all based on royalties. So I kind of, you know, I lived through the lean years. I did what I could to make ends meet. And then X Games came around. You know, we had our video game, a lot of success. We did a huge tour. That's when I'm in my early 30s. And I was riding that wave, and it felt kind of surreal, but also I was so fixated on the actual skating that I kind of lost sight of relationships, like personal relationships, truly. Because suddenly it was like all my life that I've devoted to this skating is suddenly appreciated on a scale that I never would have imagined.
Wow.
Right? So then I'm just chasing that and chasing it to a fault because I'm so caught up in it.
When you say sort of not paying attention to relationships, what does that look like?
It's just a lack of intimacy and
Emotional,
yeah. And then I don't want to blame, I'm not going to blame my upbringing, but that was the example that I saw growing up. So I didn't really have any other example to emulate. But regardless, like I could have, you know, I could have paused and maybe tried to figure all that out. But I was on this rocket ship of success, and I chased that. And then at some point, the fame aspect of it, you know, I never got into skateboarding to be rich or famous. You couldn't be rich or famous, get skateboarding when I was a kid. Right. No one was. Yeah. Right? So when it suddenly came, it was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do now. I'm supposed to do the famous things. And go to the events, and you know, probably places we saw each other. Where it was like, I'm invited, I should go, right? Like, I don't belong in these situations. And I know fame's not the worst drug, right? Right. We know there are plenty of drugs that are true killers, and so I mistakenly said that at some point, but it's bad. And if you keep chasing it, it's not going to come. Well, and
I think it is, in a way, it's actually a gateway drug. Right? Sure. So, I mean, I think it is
in terms of the endorphins and the excitement.
Yeah, for sure. and I think it can...
And then you try to fulfill that in other ways.
Right. And it can lead to, as we see with so many well-known people, it can lead to them taking their own lives. Sure. So, I mean, it can have that same same consequence.
And as I kind of got wrapped up in that and definitely could recognize something in myself that I didn't like. In terms of the choices I was making. And I just didn't have the tools to make better choices. And I knew I had to do something about it. I just knew like I was headed for disaster. And in a lot of ways, I already was in a disaster because I was just ruining relationships left and right. And, you know, wasn't connecting with my kids on a level that I felt I should have been or was capable, or that where they really wanted to share with me. And so, yeah, I sought help, and I got very lucky in that my wife, Kathy, she was my beacon of hope the whole time. And it was like, if I can get to this, and just through the discipline I've learned from skating, if I can redirect and truly connect emotionally, and if I can have a life with her and our children, like, that is the biggest prize I could ever ask for. It didn't come easy. It took a lot of work. I'm still trying to be better at everything.
It's always an ing, like it's always still going,
work in progress, of course.
Right, exactly. I'm just so curious about what kind of help you sought, and what did that look like, and what did you discover about yourself in it?
Yeah, just a lot of therapy and trying to figure out, like, how can I be a better father, partner, husband, person. And I learned a lot. I did. I leaned into it. But also, it wasn't some magic pill. It was something that I learned some tools. I started to figure out how I could cultivate my relationships in a better way, especially with my kids. How I could keep skating at a professional level, which, I'm in my 40s. Like, that seems unheard of. But now I'm in my 50s and I'm still talking about it. So.
Yeah. Do you still skate?
I was skating an hour ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Right down the street.
So is it kind of like meditation for you in a way?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I live in San Diego, so
yeah.
I don't
So
know,
you slept up here.
We're in LA.
Yeah.
I got here almost an hour early because I always have to account for traffic, and there is a skate
Thank
park.
you.
The Culver City skate park. It was right down the street, and I drove by, no one was there, so I just was skating there for like half hour.
Yeah.
Stretch my legs.
All right. Very cool. Do you get recognized at skate parks still?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what does that feel like for you now?
It's fun, but it, then they expect you to perform magic. And I'm just trying to cruise around and, get a little loose before I come here. So I'm not going to be doing the things they see me do on TV. So for me, I guess it's more of a issue of pride. Just like, yeah, hi, how are you? I'm not going to do anything impressive, but good to see you.
Bart Simpson, thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much to Audible, our presenting sponsor. Let Audible expand your life by listening. Look, we're all trying to better ourselves, right? And sometimes finding the time to sit down and read can feel impossible. With Audible, you'll have access to over 1 million audiobooks and podcasts right at your fingertips. Whether you're going for a walk or just making dinner, and by making dinner, I also mean ordering delivery, you can tap into all this amazing content from thought leaders to experts who really get it. And let me tell you something, whatever you're interested in, it's there. If you're into health and wellness, they've got you covered. Trying to get into meditation, there's stuff for that too. Looking for a good laugh? Oh my gosh, so much good content. And being able to listen while you're doing other things makes it so much more doable. Let Audible help you reach the goals you've set for yourself. Start listening today when you sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com/reclaiming. Thanks so much to our sponsor, Reformation. I want to take a second to talk about one of my favorite clothing brands, Reformation. You've probably seen Reformation on Instagram or at a wedding. They make the best guesting dresses. But if you're like me, you may have thought that's all they do. Well, you're in for a pleasant surprise. Last year, they worked with yours truly and Vote.org on a campaign to empower voters to take part in the democratic process and show off their workwear. From doing the campaign and getting to know the brand even better, I love their sweaters, blouses, workwear, shoes, and bags. But most important, I love how confident I feel in their stuff. Plus, it really holds up since they make everything with super high-quality, sustainable materials. Reformation is also a brand that uses their growing platform to do good in the world, and especially in the sustainable fashion space. As they say, being naked is the #1 most sustainable option. Reformation is #2. If you're looking for clothes you want to feel great in and feel better about, head to reformation.com. You were in this incredible documentary called Until the Wheels Fall Off on HBO. And in it, you talk about how in your 40s, you had to reclaim your emotional life. For me, after 1998, I had to learn to sort of trust my intuition again and learn to try to find ways to trust myself. And so,
yeah, I know what you're saying. I think what I learned mostly, especially in the years that followed, after going to therapy, is to put up boundaries.
Okay.
And that was hugely important, and still is. I didn't like to disappoint people, so I was always like, yeah, sure, okay, yeah, let's do that. And then I was just giving myself away in terms of my time, my energy, time away from my family. And I learned to say no. I mean, that was a huge skill.
Yeah, no. No. I am a people pleaser, and I really struggle with boundaries too. And I mean, maturity has helped, but I find it really hard still to kind of just
for sure.
to be able to balance those things. And do you feel like have you tried to teach your kids boundaries? And
I think more by example than anything. And I think that they see that I'm very particular about things that I choose now.
Well, and I'm doubly honored that you.
Well, yeah, but I think these conversations are important.
Yeah.
And especially important for people who are at a crossroads. Like, which way do I go? Or if they have success, or do they want success? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think
it's... Watch what you wish for.
I don't have kids, but most of my friends have kids. And so I think in the process of watching them go through their teens now into their 20s, particularly with the boys, there just seem to be no role models for how to really develop an emotional landscape and the language, or to recognize when something goes awry and to sort of seek help in ways. So I find it really inspirational.
I will say that my oldest son has definitely done a lot of work on himself over the last few years, and I can tell has become a role model to his younger siblings.
Oh, interesting.
I can see how they see him now, and how they would like to emulate him, just in terms of his approach and his motivation, and it's really cool. And I'm not taking credit for that. I'm just excited that they have some sort of beacon.
Yeah.
And because they, for the most part, they all got the same DNA, so they can figure out. It is funny though, because we have 5 boys, and my daughter's 16. She's the only one that's still at home. But how different they all are, even with some of them having the same genetic makeup. There's so much nature over nurture.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I mean, do you see yourself in all of them, or different aspects of yourself?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
The good stuff?
I think that, well, yeah. I think.
Like, are they committed? Do they? Cause
no,
you're
well,
committed.
when you say the good stuff, I mean, yeah, like I see that with obviously rose-colored glasses, sure. And the bad in terms of their stubbornness, determination. But yeah, for sure, I can see it. I see, and they're all highly motivated, and I think that if there's one through line I can see, is that they're all motivated to keep getting better at what they do. That at the core is what I have always done.
Yeah.
In terms of skating, yes, and personally, but I just mean, like, I always wanted to keep improving, and still to this day, I'm old AF, but I love trying new tricks. I still love it.
Really?
Yeah. They're much more low-key, technical. They're not going to move the needle. You're not going to see them on ESPN highlights, but they give me that feeling of validation, and that's all that matters to me.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we talked a little about some of the technical things, just so people think I'm cool. So I'm trying so hard to be cool, but just, I don't know, like, maybe this is dumb, but I don't understand the physics of how I saw it in the documentary. I saw there was this, I think it was you who did this trick. It was video of a lot of different things happening. And you swap skateboards in the middle of a thingy and I just don't understand how that even fucking happens. Like you're in the air and somebody gives you swap skateboards.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of a novelty trick, but yeah.
I mean, but how do you do that? How do
you have to be
this?
with someone that is very much aligned with what you do to understand like the flow and the arc of how that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's very much
dancing almost in a way.
Kind of, yeah. Where my doubles partner, Andy McDonald, we did doubles for like X Games for like 6 years.
What does that mean?
That means it's tandem.
Okay.
Not tandem, but two people on the ramp at the same time going over, under, working together. That's what you saw. It was a clip of that.
Okay.
But when you're that in tune with the mechanics of half pipe skating, of vert skating, you know exactly what the arc is going to be for handing off a board, right?
This is so mind-boggling to me.
But it's kind of a novelty. But in terms of just the physics of skating, a lot of people don't understand like how does the board stay on your feet? Mm-hmm. Well, the technique is the ollie. Okay. And it's exactly how you maneuver your feet, you snap the board upward, you slide 1 foot forward to level it out, and then you keep your knees bent and you keep on pushing it so that gravity will keep the board on your feet until you actually land. Mm-hmm. That's the baseline of how we do that.
My God, I'm going to have to try out all these new terms on my brother to see if he, I know it's a good, but I feel in my 50s. So I'll be 52 in July. I've now reached that marker. You know the marker. So once you turn the year, and then you sort of go, oh, I'm 51,
now
and then
I'm into my 50s.
And but now I'm like, oh, now we're in the year. Now it's gonna be closer to July. So now I start saying, well, I'm almost 52, but whatever. But
I'm not looking forward to 57, so I'm gonna
50. But 57 is a good number. Like that's a good number. You're still not that 60 is bad, but you're still sort of, you still have a few years till 60.
I hope so. Yeah, I don't know. I have not put ultimatums on anything at any age, obviously,
right?
And maybe to a fault.
Yeah.
So I feel as good as I did last year. Mm-hmm. Maybe better because I'm way more recovered in my legs. So
yeah.
All right, let's bring it on. 57. Let's go.
So you brought up resilience. If you could say something that you think could help somebody have resilience or find resilience, help them to build that muscle, do you have any thoughts on that?
My best answer is to convince yourself that you're capable of whatever this is or overcoming this challenge. And sometimes that's really hard to visualize. Sometimes that's really hard to break through. But if you can be steadfast and say, I got this, and it might take a while, and it might be super hard, it might be super painful, but I am capable. I think that's it. Like it's just telling yourself and visualizing the outcome. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't be able to do any of these things that I do on a skateboard, considering how terrible I was at it in the beginning. Like my first competition, I got second to last place.
Wow. Okay.
And I don't even know if the guy who got last place showed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So none of this stuff came naturally. I didn't just get lucky. Like it was all based on perseverance, resilience, determination, and not letting, just not giving up. Mm-hmm. That's it. Don't give up. That's my best answer. Like,
don't give up.
Yeah. Keep trying. Just keep getting up and trying.
Mm-hmm. Till the wheels fall off.
Till the wheels fall off. Yeah. My wheel actually fell off. My wheel actually fell off like a month ago.
Oh, really?
I was skating, yeah. And I threw my
God.
board, and this is kind of a funny story. I threw my board, and it actually went over the back of the ramp.
Okay.
So it landed straight on the ground. Usually it lands on the ramp and slides down. Mm-hmm. And then I went and picked it up and went up to the top, and I was just about to drop in, and my friend's like, Tony, your board. Yeah. What? And I look, and one wheel had broken off.
Oh my gosh.
So I was the living example of until the wheels fall off.
Right. Wow.
But I went and got a new wheel and put it on, kept skating.
That's what we do in our 50s. We just go get a new one.
Until the wheels fall off, then you go get another new wheel.
Exactly. The question I ask everybody at the end of our chat is if there's anything you're working on reclaiming right now, and it could be a thing or...
Well, for me, it's an easy answer.
Oh, great. Good. Make it easy for me.
I am reclaiming our video game series in the form of a 3 and 4 remaster.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that news just broke.
Okay.
So,
very cool.
Very excited. It's got new, a lot of the legendary skaters, legendary parks and maps, but also new ones, new skaters, new tricks, new challenges. I'm so excited. I can't believe we've kept it under wraps as long as we have.
That's
because
so cool.
It's in terms of fans of the series, it's been really hard to keep them at bay. And they had basically given up on 3 and 4 being remastered.
Okay.
I mean, we're 25 years after the fact. So
oh my gosh.
It's so exciting. And it's a lot of the same soundtrack, but also new music, new songs. So that's always a big thing for our game is the soundtrack.
And do the skate parks, because you've built skate parks with your charity, right? Your foundation.
Yeah.
And so do those feature, like, is there a way, have you married that? Because that's really interesting. That's such a nice...
some parks that we've supported. A lot of the parks that were in the game were... The game happened before the foundation.
Okay.
Right? So they're just legendary parks that have legacy. I would say the best example is Burnside in Portland. It's just
okay. I lived in Portland. I know Burnside.
So, under the Burnside Bridge. That was just done by the skaters. They had no approval.
Wow.
They just started building a skate park, and then we put it in our game, and then we donated money to the Burnside project so they could expand on it.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So, I went to college in Portland, so.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So the version of Burnside that's in the game is kind of locked away from 1999.
Okay.
But now it's way more expanded upon. So if you go to Burnside, it doesn't really match the game version.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Which is amazing because that just means that the city has finally given in and it's yours. It's skaters.
It's really incredible. I think I hadn't thought about what it sort of means to be living through this birth of something so big that changes a culture that I think it's interesting because really with almost every other sport, I think baseball, football, hockey, they all existed already. They were already sort of, I don't know, codified and I don't know if that's the right word there, but...
they were established.
Yeah, they were established. Yes. So it's just really interesting to think about, and now kids who were born today, my nephew, skating's, it's a thing. It's
unreal. Well, that's the thing is when I grew up, there were hardly any skate parks, and then there were even less as I got into skateboarding. So I grew up near one of the last parks in the U.S. There were maybe 4 or 5 at that time, literally across the U.S. And nowadays, I just skated a park that's 5 minutes from here.
Right. Do you know how many parks are in the world?
I don't know exactly how many, but we've helped to fund or develop over 800.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
In the U.S. alone.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow. That's really cool. Well, thank you for doing that. I think it's so important for young people and older people to have a place to go and congregate and belong.
That's the best work that I could do, I think, with my success. And I think the coolest part, like you said, all these sports they're already established. The coolest part is that I get to live through this generation and participate. Like that to me is absolutely living the dream. Because, I'm watching it, but I get to be out there skating with them. It's crazy. I'm skating with 10-year-olds that could do 900s.
It's amazing.
But I'm still in the mix. That's just some unreal time warp continuum.
Yeah. Oh no, this was so great. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
Really, really, and my board.